civilization somewhere in the northern hemisphere, waiting out the alien apocalypse. He is armed with a machete and a microphone. This is the Alien Outpost. Are you ready?
All right, welcome to Alien Outpost Radio. I appreciate all the new subscribers to my channel, which is Alien Outpost TV, over the past few weeks and really the past few months. I can't believe over the past couple years I have gotten up to just about 22,000 followers. I never thought I would actually reach that because I really was making videos and doing interviews for because I love doing it, and I love that it's actually getting out there, the interviews, the people that I come across, and I like how each and every one of you support me and this channel and my radio show. And tonight I'm psyched. I've been wanting to have this guy on for quite some time. We've had I think we had some scheduling difficulty. I believe it was with him, but we got him here. We got him in the airwaves. I'm telling you, I got goosebumps, Dale. How you doing, man?
Very good. Thanks, Mike, for having me. Thrilled to talk to you.
And okay, like I said, I like to try to keep this between an hour and 15 minutes. So is your brain ready to be picked and poked a little bit?
Ready and waiting. Got the melted butter to put on it, and we'll go from there.
So let's do it. But so some people that will be listening to this, because this is a podcast, they're going to be saying, "Who is Dale Harder?" I like for people to because most people can explain themselves better than I can, or just But anyways, just explain to the audience who Dale Harder is and what are you bringing to the table.
Well, I'm just an average ET. Actually, I'm in human form.
Yeah.
And I've been on this planet now 63 years. And believe me, it's been quite a ride. And I've had a lot of different jobs, a lot of different things, but have always been scientifically oriented. So hence studying science and technology and things all my life. And even had to do some sports to prove that I could do it to keep some of the rougher guys off my neck. But after I showed that I could handle that, then, I earned my place. But otherwise, I'm an extremely curious individual. I have some abilities which are a little bit beyond the standard individual. It's how would I put it? An everyday thing, like an everyday person. I've had my jobs and so forth to cover, but the fact that I knew from the time I was born who I was, where I came from, and why is another thing.
Mm-hmm. And so how far back does your story, or does, I guess, go a little bit further, I guess, with you don't have to go through every little detail, but so of course, some that have already heard you before on other programs, you usually start as a child. So I guess you can lead it from there.
Well, I was born in the usual way, as I said, in a physical human form. I was approximately 3 months old. I was adopted. I was left. And there was nothing known about me. And I came with a note that said that my name was David Larry. I had no last name. And the note further mentioned that I was allergic to regular milk and had to be given goat's milk. But other than that, there was really very little information. Even my birth date is somewhat conjectured. It's plus or minus 24 hours. I've never, ever been able to get my records or have them opened. Fortunately, I was adopted by some wonderful parents who were 20 and 21 respectively, and my mother and father wanted children very badly. They were newlywed, but it turned out that my mother had to have a hysterectomy, and I came along at the right time. So later, 4 years later, I have a sister that was also adopted in the same fashion through the Catholic Charities organization. And I guess I'm unusual in that my memories begin even before I was born. As I said, I am a Pleiadian soul, Pleiadian ET. I come from the Pleiades and had a family there and a life there. I come from the planet Era. And
I don't mean to cut you off, Dale. I don't mean to cut you
problem.
off. But what was that spark, or what happened to where you were able to remember exactly where you came from and the memories? When did they start coming in?
Well, they came in. They were always there immediately when I was physically born. The hard part for me to relate to people, or for them to understand, is that when I was born with all the knowledge that I have even to this day, but I did not know what it meant. I had to grow into it. I had to experience it. I had to understand it. So the memories go back to my very beginning. So, as I said, coming in, I remembered immediately after birth that, who I was and where I had been. And the funny part of that story is that even though I had volunteered to come to Earth as part of a Vanguard unit to help humans in the ascension process and to go through what we're going through right now, to get so that humanity could take its rightful place, as it were. I was on the ship, and I remember that I'd gone through all my training. I'm ready to leave. Everybody's going out the door, so to speak. And at the last moment, I panicked. I chickened out. I says, no, I'm not going. That's it. No. And they literally pushed me out the door and said, hey, you volunteered. This is what you were trained for. You got to go. And kaboom, there I am. So I'm born, and I've got this head full of stuff, and I have no way to tell other people what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, what I know, and so it starts off as being rather unusual birth.
So y'all came. So you and others came here on a ship.
Yes.
Okay. What was the process of if you came here on a ship? What was the transition? I guess, for lack of a better term, that could be the right term. What was the transition of you, I guess, being in a physical form, I would say, and then to where you ended up as a baby here on Earth?
Well, you see, Pleiadians, of course, are related to humanity. That's why we're concerned about humanity. We are physical beings. We are human. We are your ancestry, and but we vibrate at a much higher frequency level than the average human. This is a very dense level of existence on this planet. It's very low frequency in comparison to, say, the stretch of frequency that is available throughout the universe. Okay, so when souls incarnate here and take a physical form, they go through a veil of forgetting so that they can come in and work off maybe karmic dues or things like that, and they also so that they do not have the knowledge prior to the test. In other words, if you knew all the answers to the test before you took it, it wouldn't be a test. Mm-hmm. So we come in, but in my case, because of my what I was to do, I came in with full knowledge. I came in with full memories and things, or at least partial memories. Some of it has faded throughout my lifetime. I don't remember every detail, and I was not given every detail, probably to protect me in some fashion.
Yeah.
But there were certain physical anomalies. So my soul, my energy was literally transferred into a living, breathing human soul, or human body. When that body was born. So the parents that made me, that took the time to do that, and then I went through the physical process, and I literally entered into that body. That's not something I can actually tell you how it feels, or otherwise. It's not like being squeezed into a balloon or anything like that, but there is a transfer process.
What was your age before you left?
Oh, well, I was somewhere in the neighborhood of 720 years, as I recall.
How
And
do those? Because some would say, "Well, that's old," but how?
well,
Because here on Earth, of course, our time space continuum, or whatever you want to say, call it,
uh,
is it's I would say it's much different than there to where you are from. So
right.
how would you explain the time difference there?
Well, Pleiadians do live a lot longer. The average lifespan of Pleiadian is about 1,250 years, in that range. So we tend to live a lot longer, but trying to put that span of time into a unit that humanity understands, it would be approximately the yearly length of 365 days. So we just basically translate that. So as I said, I was roughly 720 years old at that time. We spend our entire lives learning and progressing and so forth. And we have a society very much as we do here, but we are on a much higher frequency level of vibration, and there is no such thing in our realm as lying or keeping secrets, because everybody knows everybody's thoughts all the time. And what we think, we create basically instantaneously.
Yeah.
So it requires a considerable amount of control over what we think and how we act. So there's a lot of difference in that respect. There is difference in the amount of time, because a year here is based on how many days it takes basically to make a rotation around our sun. And so we do a little bit of translation there, but it's similar, very similar. Our sun is a higher frequency sun than Sol, but it is similar in many fashions. It is, of course, physical, and they do occupy many different levels of frequency all at one time.
And that's probably what helps y'all live so long, is those higher frequency fields, I would say. It probably helps.
It would be more like envisioning us as a light body.
Yeah.
And while my brother and sisters can come here and take physical form, but they can't stay here for a lengthy period, because that's very hard on their bodies. And for us, for me, for example, to go back on board a ship, since I'm at this lower frequency, would be very hard on my body. If I stayed any length of time, it could kill me. So, there are limits as to what can be done. The ships that most of the time that are seen are light ships, and what they're doing is they're riding the crest, the wave, if you will, between the transition of this lower frequency and a higher frequency where we're from. And by doing that, they don't have to expend very much energy. But, they do come and go, and there are physical aliens on the planet at all times. So, I had to pretty much be in a physical form to stay here and do what I come to do.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I'm paying the price for that, because I was only supposed to be here about 40 years. And I knew that as a very, very small child.
What happened?
And well, I told my parents, I've been running around. I'm a little 4 or 5 year old kid, and I'm going, I know I'm not going to be here long. I only have so many years. And they would always look at me like, what are you talking about? But I always knew that. And but as things went on, I asked to stay longer and to serve. And, basically our purpose is, when we come, is to serve humanity, to serve others.
Yeah.
And serving others is also service to self. So, I asked to stay, and they told me that I could, but there would be consequences. And those consequences are that my physical body has undergone a great deal of stress and problems with sickness and things like that at an early age. So I'm literally falling apart at 63 years old and experiencing probably what I would for most people at 80 and 90.
Yeah.
So it has taken a toll, and it's been tough, but I fight it every day, and I'm going to keep on no matter what.
Now, if you were to go back, either whenever you came here as a child, or if they were ready to bring you back to your home planet.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how would that take place? Would just a ship arrive is it really interdimensionally, or how do y'all get in contact with the ship to be able to go back to your home planet?
Well, it's, I would literally, because I am human at this point, I would go through the death process, just as everyone else on this planet would.
Yeah.
And when we die, then each of our souls has its choice.
Mm-hmm.
And basically at that point, my energies would return to where I started. It could be done on a ship if they wanted to. It could be done through the normal process, and I have a funeral. It could be any number of ways, but it's essentially a transition, a change. All too many times people get really scared of the idea of dying, and I got to tell you, it doesn't thrill me either.
Mm-hmm.
But, I realize that there are other things and that where I'll be going and what I'll be doing. It's almost like people who have out-of-body experiences, if you will. And so a similarity. But nothing is permanent. There is life after this life. There is other things. And so, we can do that. Now, I have the ability to communicate with my brothers and sisters and many other ETs and call the ships, and they come and visit pretty regularly. So it's not unusual. Many people come with me and come to my home or otherwise, and they witness that for themselves. And it depends on the level of the ability of the individuals that are with me as to how much they're going to see. Because if they are frightened or if they are negative or doubtful or anything in that fashion, my people will not come or they will not interact. It requires literally an open heart, an open mind. Even if you're just curious, that's okay too.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't come to do a dog and pony show. They do not come to put on a circus. They come to interact because they are asked to, because we are ready to receive that. And by opening our hearts and filling our minds with thoughts of love and gratitude and acceptance, they're more than happy to interact. And since thought has no bounds, we can contact one another anywhere in the universe at any moment. And, so it's much like a radio, a transmitter,
Mm-hmm.
but, and so I will ask, and usually they will show up in some form.
How, I guess, describe exactly what these crafts look like. These spaceships. Are they like your typical flying saucer UFO with the kind of the bell in the center, or what kind of craft are these that y'all are traveling through?
Well, Mike, I tell you, I've literally had every type of craft and style of craft that one can pretty much imagine show itself. Our craft tend to be more of the light craft, which look like the plasma balls.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, they're riding the crest between different density levels, and so they don't have to put out as much energy that way. They're not fully physical, but they're not etheric either. So they're halfway in between.
Can they travel interdimensionally?
Oh yes, absolutely.
So
they're super luminal, and they do travel fast, interdimensionally as well.
And you're doing a great job with these questions because, like I said, I'm trying to pick your brain like a freaking brain surgeon here.
No
so
problem.
within the
No
next, hour, 15 minutes. But
well, we have had physical craft here, which have been spherical. We've had, of course, we've had the MELAB craft, which are the military, the TR-3B. They like to taunt me every once in a while, and I'm not too particularly keen on seeing them, but they do come. And we've had craft that look kind of like a pill, if you will, a capsule. We've had long cylinders. There have been spheres of every type. There have been rectangles, triangles, just about anything and everything. And they can be interphased to where, like I said, they're partially phased or not, but they may look more physical. And then, of course, the craft that tend to be more balls of light and that type of thing. A lot of the craft that, our craft will send out what we use as probes. And so those can be smaller balls of what look like plasma or light. and they can be on the order of anywhere from 6 inches to 12 inches in diameter, like a basketball, that kind of thing. And they can also contain consciousness, but they are probes, and so it's an easier way than bringing a whole craft into an area. Although I've had some bigger craft come in plasma form, 40 or 50 feet in diameter. So it just depends on what's available at that time or what they wish to use. While I may have conversations with them telepathically, they talk in my head. I get male voices, I get female voices, and sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm going, wait a minute, is this me making this up? You really have to check yourself, because even me, after all of this, it's still, I'm used to it. But it took me 56 years to really get to the point where I say, okay, I accept this. I know who I am. And that's a long time. Even though I knew my entire life that I was different physically, mentally, spiritually, the whole thing.
So you really didn't really have the normal, I guess you could say, childhood as the normal child.
Well, no, not quite. I built my first laser when I was about 6 years old. I was one of those kids that was repairing and taking care of all the TVs and appliances and everything in the entire neighborhood when I was a little boy. I was always digging and learning, and they had kept kicking me out of the library, out of the adult section, because I wanted to know how things worked and how things were in the real world, instead of reading, this is a little train and this is the ABC block. I was, so they had a hard time trying to understand what it was, and I was forever building and doing things. My parents indulged me. I was fortunate. I had a laboratory in all of our homes. I built enormous Tesla coils, 6-8 foot tall, that type of thing. I had every kind of laser, and I built rockets. I blew up the basement more times than I can count. My poor mother, I'm surprised she didn't.
Here.
Yes, I was. I absolutely was, and I loved school. I went to school and I graduated with way more honors and credits than were needed, but I just enjoyed learning. And the more I learned, the more I understood it. Well, oh, wait a minute, I knew that, but that's what that means. So it's always been exciting.
Is that a part of your mission, Dale? I don't mean to cut you off. Is that part of your mission here? Is to help, I guess, shape and mold, I guess, technologically, or evolve for the human species to evolve technologically to where maybe we can travel the stars? Or because it seems like you're very interested in different types of technology.
Absolutely. I have been fortunate enough in this life. I worked for NASA for 12 years. I worked for Honeywell Aerospace for 7 years, and I have had many masters and teachers throughout my lifetime, and I encompass a great number of fields. At last count, about 17 different disciplines. But the idea is that I wanted to learn and to understand, and to, for me, the earth is an oyster. I'd like to pick it clean, and the more I learn, the less I know. And I can't imagine how anyone could ever get bored here. It's just a phenomenal place. Yeah, sure, the earth has its problems, but that's why we're here. That's what it's all about. Learning to love and accept one another, learning that what is important and what isn't. And I guess probably one of our biggest goals is the effort to help humanity with disclosure, so that they can understand what has been held back from them for the last 75 years or more. We've literally lost a century here. And Earth is almost like a prison planet, and there are some very negative entities here that are controlling things, So while I greet and accept almost all of the ET races and ask for interactions with them.
How many are here on Earth, Dale?
There have been as much as 82 species, to my knowledge. That number varies somewhat, goes up and down. But the ones that are constantly visiting, I'd say, are in the neighborhood of 12 to 15. While like I said, I tend to interact, or would like to interact with most of them. They are here for the benefit of humanity, or at least I will put it this way, their agenda coincides with humanity's agenda, and it kind of works out that we're on the same page. Now, everybody's got their own agenda, even my folks. They don't tell me what that is.
Mm-hmm.
But, fortunately, I believe that it is mostly for the benefit of humanity. And when push comes to shove and humanity finally does wake up and disclosure does come out, it's not going to be just about ETs or that type of thing. It's literally going to blow the lid off. And the world will change overnight, where we will have free energy. We'll have unbelievable biotechnology. We're going to have no more people are going to starve. There's not going to be any water crunches and problems. There's not going to be unbelievable diseases. Cancer will be eradicated. We will not need gas, oil, nuclear, that type of stuff any longer. The world will change substantially. And it's going to be difficult for some people to accept. And I realize this, and my people and others realize this. But humanity has to realize that Mother Earth, Gaia, Terra, has put up with our evolution as long as she can. She's held back for us. She's got to move forward. She is a living being as well. There is not a square millimeter on this planet that does not have life on it or in it. And this living being has got to move forward as well, and is doing so at the present time. And that's part of what's being experienced with weather and all the different things, as well as the false stuff where they're actually modifying things. But, we are moving forward, and ascension is coming, and the frequencies throughout the universe are raising. The sun is getting hotter. The planets are all a degree or two hotter. The energy's coming into our solar system and interacting with the Alcyone sun from the Pleiades are interacting and getting higher. The Schumann frequency is increasing. Everything here is getting higher and higher, and it's going to continue.
I don't mean to interject again.
No problem.
But because just like I said, I'm trying to pick your brain as much as I can here. But
you betcha.
But you bring up a fascinating point, Dale. With all the things that are going on in the solar system and Earth, and with our frequencies, could that be one reason why there's been so much chaos and evil, bigotry, violence over the past? I would say it seemed like it has spiked over the past 10, 15, 20 years or so. I would say really the past 10, it's just been a lot of, I would say, wars and rumors of wars. And of course, bigotry, violence. And do you think that's because all of this energy is coming and we just don't know how to evolve or to accept it, because it's almost like it's making our minds go crazy because we are hitting it really hard, but it will come to a point to where we learn to adapt to these frequencies and to this energy that's going on in the solar system.
Yes, that's going to happen for sure. And what I'd like your listeners and for you to understand from the information I give is what I have received. I cannot tell you in 100% confidence that this is the absolute answer. I never look at anything in absolutes, but it is what I know to be true at this point, and those informations do change from time to time. But from what I understand, what I know, what I'm perceiving, is that the things that are happening now are coming to a head on this planet, if you will, and people are becoming very agitated, and there's more violence, and there seems to be more war, and all of the stuff that's going on with our governments and this, that, and the other thing. This is all part of the process. And, as I said, there are many ET races that are here that are observing. Part of the energy change has been perpetrated upon us. It is artificial, all right? It is caused by artificial instruments, such as weather modification and things like that. But the other part of it is that what humanity will realize and is beginning to realize is that our thoughts are creative energies, creative devices. Everything we think at some point will have a creation and produces a creation. So it is that we have to be careful what we think, what we say, what we do, and how we accept and love one another. The idea is to learn to be service to others and not always think about yourself. And when we do that, we are served as well because others are serving us where we're serving someone else. So it goes round like a round robin. And the best thing at this point is what they're trying to do. You have to remember that we have reptilians, we have Greys, and we have Draco Caste and so forth, which have been in charge of Earth for a very long time. And they are working with other forces, shall I say, not necessarily for our good, and been in control.
Some call these the negative ETs.
Yes. And
these are the ones that are probably working alongside certain governments in the world, and they could be another reason why there is a lot of chaos and
precisely. Fighting. Yep, precisely. And what they are doing is that they realize that they have lost this war, so to speak, and we are in a war. We are in a war for humanity. We are in a war for our very existence. And that's why people need to become aware. But what happens is that in the process of this, that they've decided, well, they live on and subsist on negative energy. Mm-hmm. And they ingest that much as we ingest food. And they also, unfortunately, can ingest human flesh. We are a commodity, which is a little more grim, but another fact that we have to deal with. So, but what they have done is they've pulled out all the stops. They have forced every kind of negativity that they can possibly muster, whether it's with money or banks or our physicality or our daily lives, with wars and everything. And what people have to realize is that what we concentrate on is what we produce. Okay? So if we sit constantly and think about negativity and I hate Iran or I hate Russia or I can't stand China or whatever it is, those negative energies are fueling the fire. What we all have to do is step back and realize, hey, wait a minute, we're all just humanity, and we need to learn to love one another and accept one another and realize, that we're pretty much the same. And that by feeding us the wrong information or negative information, we're creating, again, that round and round we go kind of thing. It's a catch-22. We are producing what we're thinking. So if we could stop thinking about war, stop thinking about the negativities, stop forcing these things on one another, we could start concentrating on much more productive and positive energies.
I may be asking you to speculate just a little bit, Dale, but just give me what, if you know, just tell us, but just give me what your gut feeling is when it comes to these negative ETs, the reptilians, or whatever you want to call them, the ones that are pretty much calling the shots behind the scenes. What do you think their agenda is here for the human species? And also, tell us what your gut tells us what their agenda is. And also, after that, do you think the Pleiadians, do you think y'all's mission is to help maybe stop maybe whatever type of negative agenda is out there for the human species?
Like I said, the ones that are in control, the negative ones, and then a lot of people like to throw around names like the Illuminati and the Cabal and this, that, and the other thing. It doesn't really matter what label you give it.
It's still the same.
It pretty much, right. And and most people realize that there is a small but very, very powerful percentage of individuals on the top of the pyramid of humanity that have been enslaved and are under control by some that are even more powerful, and hence those negative forces that we were talking about. And the negative forces and those small percentage of humanity that are in control want to stay in control at any cost. And they will do so without regard to life or limb or anything else, and will eradicate people such as myself for speaking out or otherwise. So there is danger involved in that. But I think humanity has a right to know. At the very least, Even if people do not agree with me, that's okay. I'm not looking to form a Dale and Pleiadian society or a Dale cult. That's not my purpose. My purpose is to get people out there to open their minds, open their hearts, look around, and realize that things are not always what they appear to be. And, it's not so much that we're talking, it's conspiracy theory. I think basically my life is conspiracy theory from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep and wake up and do it all over again. There are a lot of things that are just not right. We all know that, and everybody is experiencing this. I think there isn't a human being anywhere that doesn't know deep in their heart or in their gut that something really big is brewing. Okay, and this is what it is. Now, I've been fortunate in my life to have traveled a great deal of the world. I have been in many, many, many countries and met many people of all kinds. And while I do not speak every other language like Valiant Thor did perhaps, I am able to understand most people because I listen with my heart and not my head. And I've lived amongst the people, not in fancy hotels or otherwise. I live on the street. I live in people's homes that will accept me or otherwise, and done this throughout my life so that I could learn what everybody was about. And guess what? Every person everywhere is sweet, wonderful, and they have the same feelings and thoughts that we have. And it's basically governments and things of that nature, organizations that have presented us with the propagandic idea that, the Russians are bad, or the Chinese are bad, or this and that. When it comes down to the average person, most of them are as innocent as you please, and they are as kind and gentle as we are. They have nothing to do with any of it. They just are there. So if everybody woke up one morning and decided, wait a minute, we're tired of being controlled and we want to see the truth, and realized that we're all the same and started serving one another instead of the negativity, this place would change overnight.
I couldn't say it any better. I couldn't say that any better, Dale. That was very, very well said. And I've also heard you state on another interview that there are 12 different type of ETs that have helped contributed, at least 12 different type of ETs that have helped contributed to the human DNA. And yes. I guess, can you give us some of the races of ETs that have helped in the human development? And I guess, and do they all have the same goal and purpose for helping us evolve?
Well, as I said, there are many different races, and each one has their own particular agenda. I cannot speak to that exactly. Yeah. And humanity has been, we are close to humanity and feel akin to humanity because we are human, and even in our Pleiadian form. Probably the best way to describe Pleiadians in a natural form would be to, if any of you, the folks out there recall the movies Cocoon, where the beings had their suits on and they pulled them down from their eye and all the light shined forth. We're beings of light, and that's what humanity eventually will be as well. That's what we're moving toward. But back to that thought there about humanity actually has 12 strands of DNA, and 2 basically are active. All right, but those strands begin to activate as our frequencies increase. And those strands have been given to us by different races, as well as the reptilian, the Arcturian, the Sirian, the Vegan, Pleiadian. There's just a whole plethora of DNA that has been assimilated from around the universe and brought into play in the creation of humanity. So we are unique in our own way. And, very unique, we're special, we're worthwhile as a race. And what we need to do is to remember that because of certain DNAs that we do have some of those very baser, negative capabilities, the ability to kill, the ability to hurt, and yet we can turn around and be so compassionate. We can be so loving and so gentle, and we have the creativity to produce incredible music and art and philosophy and things of those nature, as well as turn around and make weapons of mass destruction.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to come to grips with the fact that we are co-creative, that we are godlike in a sense. That does not mean to interfere with the idea of our creator. Pleiadians tend to believe that we have a prime creator, a prime creative force, but we do not have the ideas of different religions. And a lot of people ask me about that, and briefly I'll just say that, we've been where you are. Okay, and since we have anywhere from 500,000 to 1,000,000 years to draw upon for experience, that's something that humanity has yet to look forward to. And so the idea of anthropomorphizing an entity or a deity, those things will change, those things will pass, and humanity will become more unified, as it were, in their thoughts and in their beliefs. Especially when our frequency is raised to the point where we begin to interact with one another on the basis of thought and energy. All things in the universe are energy. My way of looking at it, and like I said, this is strictly my opinion at this point. I have no facts for you, but my way of looking at it is that there are two things that exist in this universe. Or actually only one, but it has two forms, and I look at it as light. All right, and light has the ability to either be moving or at rest, and hence the equation from Einstein, E equals mc squared. When light is moving, it is either photons in a wave or a packet, and when it is at rest, it is the physical things we call mass. All right, but the conversion of one to the other and the yielding of the energy, and that's what it is. So the prime creative force, which is actually more feminine than masculine, as we have found, but the prime creative force that all things come from is from light, is from light energy in one form or another. And everything that exists everywhere is simply an expression of that prime creative force. It does not have to be a deity or anything of that nature. Humanity tends to place, how would I put it, our beliefs, we tend to place things on it like negative or positive, when experiences are neither. They're neutral, and then we put the labels on them.
Exactly, and all these labels, Dale, and well said, but all these labels, all this really creates, and I'm sure the negative ETs have something, to contribute here when it comes to all this division and with all these labels. All this creates is just a negative, I guess, energy. And I really think that is the reason why we have been so stagnated as a human species for quite some time. And just like you stated, with this energy that we are, with the solar system, is we are going it towards, and with the sun producing more energy, and the earth just it's moving, it's changing, everything is changing rapidly. And yes, I think we will eventually evolve to where we will look back and we will think, why in the hell did we do that? It's like it's almost like whenever you something, have to, but anybody, even to the audience, just look back whenever something in your past that you really regret something stupid you did, and now skip forward many years later and you think, why in the hell did I do that? I was stupid. I was dumb. I was ignorant. And, right. and I think that is the shift that's going to happen. We're going to really look back, and it's going to be really this amazing experience that is, I think it's going to really evolve the human species, really physically, consciously, and spiritually.
Exactly. And that's what we're hoping for. Now, my people, as well as the others, and I hate to sound so cliche, Star Trek has been such a wonderful part of our life, my life, yes, many others. But to use the adage and to borrow their line, the prime directive, it is very much a case of the prime directive. As much as the Pleiadians and others, the Yael, the Sasani, etc., which are again very similar to humanity, would like to step in and help us, they cannot. They are bound by the prime directive, as it were, because they simply cannot interfere with humanity's free will. But we are rapidly approaching the point, and what they are waiting for is that when we reach the tipping point, much like a nuclear bomb has a critical mass, we are waiting for the critical mass of humanity to wake up, accept the idea of ETs, to pull off the veil and the mask, as it were, and to realize that, hey, we are not the greatest thing in creation. There are other brothers and sisters out there, and we need to take our rightful place. And once we can get past that and realize that we as a group, as a human race, need help, when we finally tip those scales to well over 60% or so of this planet, and literally ask for help from our brothers and sisters, at that point, they can then come in and say, well, it's about time. We're happy to help. What would you like? And they can step in and begin to offer us some opportunities. One of the possibilities that exists is that with a thing called the event, which we're looking at some solar flashes and so forth. Some people have called it the kill shot and others. It's not so much that we are going to have a solar flash or a coronal mass ejection that is going to interfere with our electrical grids and our satellites, and it probably will, where it would put us back to the 1800s. And, so people are going to freak out for a while because they don't have their cell phones, they don't have their computers, we don't have some of our daily conveniences. But at that point, if humanity has sufficiently raised its vibrational frequency, if we are sufficiently aware of our brothers and sisters and realize that what has happened, that would be a prime time for them to be able to step in and say, guess what? We're going to help you. We're going to let you have what you should have had all along, the free energy, and nobody's going to scramble for energy anymore. We're going to give you your food and your replicators, and nobody's going to starve anymore. Desalination of water and the reduction and the getting rid of the nuclear waste and contamination, which could be done very easily. All of those things will take place, and humanity will rebuild. It will rebuild not only with one another, but with the help of the other ETs as well. And that is the hope. There has been all kinds of speculation about disclosure. I've worked toward that my entire life. And now they're doing the drip feed, of course, of disclosure. And so many people have said, oh, geez, if they told us that ETs existed, that humanity would just lose it and everybody jump out the window. Well, I want to tell you, I don't think that that's the case, and there may be a few that get pretty perturbed or even leave this place. But for the most part, if you go back to December 16th of 2017, when we had some disclosure, and the New York Times and many other papers, television networks, etc., covered disclosure, and they told us, the government admitted, guess what? Yeah, we've been studying UFOs for quite some time. They are real. ETs are here. We've known it for some time now. And guess what? The world kept on turning. Nobody even looked up from their cell phones or their computers. It was another day just like any other. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't think that humanity can't handle it. I think we need to give one another a little more credit than that. Okay, it will affect some of our religious outlooks. It will affect some of our beliefs, but I think it will be for the better. I, for one, having fought this battle, as it were, for my lifetime, I think we're ready. I think it's time to move on. I think most people are tired of being held back in the baloney, and we see this in our government. We see this with the Trump administration. We see all of the different things day to day. I think we're tired of all of the lies and the baloney, and we want some truth. I think we're hungering for that. And so my brothers and sisters and others are very, very carefully watching and listening. And all we simply have to do is say, I've had enough. I want the truth, and stand up as a unit, as a group, as one race, and simply say, we want the truth, we want the control, and we can do that without being violent about it. In fact, the more love we put into it, the more easy the transition will be. Mm-hmm. Now, I know that sounds really difficult. There's some people out there scratching their heads and go, well, maybe this guy makes some good points, but he sure is a real muckraker, or he's just too sweet to be true, or whatever it is. It's irrelevant. Instead of thinking of the negatives and superlatives that you can call me, why not just say, geez, I kind of like this guy's message, and I wish him well, and I send him a little bit of love, and even if I don't agree, his idea is not so bad after all.
That's the type of transition that we will have to go in for us to eventually evolve, like I said, physically, spiritually, and consciously.
Absolutely. And it's happening. It really is happening. In fact, I had people over last night, and they wanted to see the ships, and we called, and they came at least 4 or 5 times last night. And we had a couple of gorgeous sightings. Some nice orange balls that came over, plasma ships and so forth. And, it's pretty cool, the different things that happen and have seen. I've even had plasma ships or small plasma, the probes and so forth in the house as a response to something that I asked for. Sometimes it's even hard for me to accept. I have experiences which are pretty far out, and my emotions are really, really high. There are times when tears roll down my face and I look like Niagara Falls, and and I'm talking with them and I can't help myself, and all I can think is home, home, home. If there ever was ET phoning home, then it was me, because I wanted to get off this mud ball many times. But,
me too, Dale.
yeah, really, but like I said, there really is a great deal of beauty here. There really is a great deal of things here worth saving. And we need to look at each other with a little less anger and a little less jaundice. And when we get on the road tomorrow morning on the way to work, we don't try to kill the guy next to us and road rage. And boy, I'll tell you, for me, that's some of the worst of it. I see road rage that is just out of control, and it scares the daylights out of me. So we need to step back and take a look, and not be so bent out of shape with false news. And we certainly need to look at the truth of what's going on in the world and the negativity, because I will tell you, in all honesty, Mike, that I am privy to news and happenings and things that people here in the United States do not see, do not know, do not hear. And if they did, it would probably upset them to the point where they would be screaming at people, get that off the TV, get it off the radio. I don't want my children exposed to this. I don't want to know about this. But the fact of the matter is, it is happening. And there are people in other parts of the world that are suffering grossly, terribly, and where lives are measured in moments. And where there is no regard whatsoever for humanity or life, no sanctity. And so if people were to see that and then take a look at their own lives, the things that they have to be thankful for, even if you're sitting on the street in a box here, you're in much better shape than some others. And so it's time that we wake up and start trying to help one another,
Exactly. Well said, Dale. And you know what? And just like you stated before, the pre-show, maybe we'll have to have part 2, because I have more questions for you, but I like to keep these interviews short because, people have a life too. And a lot of people don't have time to listen to 2 or 3 hour shows, because they have a life and family. And that's why I like to try to pick your brain or other guests' brains as much as I can with an hour to an hour, 15 minutes. But the way you ended that that is the reason why I'm not going to ask any more questions, because you ended the show very perfectly. And I'm telling you what, before we round things off for this time, and I would definitely have you on, like I said, for a part 2 somewhere down the road. But what, I guess, because you pretty much stated, I guess, what you think that humanity needs to do to evolve, of course, spiritually, physically, consciously. But what is something, I guess, to wound things up for this time, what is something we can do right now, I guess, to make it happen, more of a jump start? Because it seems like a lot of these things aren't necessarily like, do we need to meditate more? That's what I'm saying, because you just stated everything just a few minutes ago, but what is something that we could actually do or practice to help bond together as a human species and to move forward? And I guess is there different methods, meditation, prayer? What is it? And then just, this is where we're going to leave off. So go ahead, and the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, meditation is great. Prayer is great. And meditation and prayer are very similar, if not connected, as far as I could tell. One of the things I think that people really need to do is to take a look at their lives and realize just how many problems that they have that they're concentrating on or giving energy to, and realize just how many of those problems are not really their problems. Mm-hmm. And they need to step back and take a look at what is actually their problem, their responsibilities. And what it comes right down to really is that we are responsible for ourselves. All right. And if each person takes responsibility for their own problems, then there's far less stress on every individual. Okay. And in some cases, I realize that's not easy to do. Family, relationships, friends, they place a great deal of stress upon us. But one must realize that each and every soul that is here on this planet right now has come here for a reason. They are here for the times of the change and for the raising of the frequencies, for the ascension of humanity. They were sent and they came for a reason. All right. It is paramount that every human being realize that other beings, other souls around them, have a preset thing that they came to do or experience. And that may mean that they came to experience cancer or some disease or losing an arm or a leg or being terribly disfigured or even dying a violent death. And those things were what they contracted to do. And as much as we may love those individuals, we cannot take away from them what they've chosen to do unless on the highest soul level they have asked us to do so and agree to it. They can say out loud, oh yes, I want to be healed, or I want to prevent this problem or this and that, but they cannot. They will not unless it is their highest oversoul that has agreed to forego the experience, you see. And so by realizing that and understanding that, each one of us can move forward a little easier. And that's not being apathetic. That is simply being acceptant, to accept those things that we cannot and should not change. All right? But being more responsible for each of ourselves and having an attitude of acceptance, of love, of understanding, and realizing that the person next to you is going through the same thing you are, whether they want to admit it or not. And then it becomes a whole lot easier. Don't hold any grudges. Don't hold any negative energy. Let it go. It's not helping you in the least. Okay? Do not worry about problems that you cannot fix or solve, because it's just wasted energy. It will not change it. And you've already lived for so many years on this planet. Everything you have done, you've gotten through. Mm-hmm. So whatever it is you're going through now, you'll get through that as well. We tend to get too wound up over things, So, and that's not to say that we're not responsible for it, but it's the attitude and the energy that we give to things that make it so. And so I say, relax, take a deep breath, realize what problems you have, which things you can control and which things you can't. Okay? And that's pretty much it.
Well said, Dale. Very well said. And like I said, we're going to have a part 2 down the road. And I tell you what, this was, I don't say it all the time, but I got goosebumps. Well, I had goosebumps on and off throughout the show, because some things were just like, wow, because, I'm listening to some things you say, then I listen to some things other researchers say, and authors and researchers, and I'm like, this is kind of painting a better picture. It's kind of connecting the dots better. This is the jigsaw puzzle is actually, is fitting together to make one nice picture. Of course, there's a lot more pieces left, unfilled, but the picture is getting there, and I think we're getting closer to disclosure and closer to truth. And I thank you for your service for humanity, and you have a good one, sir.
Same to you, and to your listeners. It's been an honor and a pleasure to serve, and I'm here when I can serve and help you again.